to illuminate the often unseen mental health challenges faced by first responders, police officers, firefighters, paramedics, and 911 dispatchers by sharing their stories, fostering understanding, and promoting resources for support and healing. We aim to break down stigma, advocate for improved mental health services within the first responder community, and inspire hope and resilience. This is the Weight We Carry podcast.
What's going on, guys? It's Bart with the Weight We Carry podcast, and I'm here with my wife, Brittany.
Hello.
And today we have an EMT firefighter down in North Carolina, Hunter Burley. What's going on, brother? How are you?
I'm great. How are y'all?
Fantastic, man. It was a pleasure meeting you, and thanks for reaching out. And if you could, give all of our viewers a little bit of a better introduction to yourself.
So, as he mentioned, my name is Hunter. I'm a EMT in North Carolina. Been in the volunteer fire department. I started my career when I was 14, 15 years old as a junior. I'm 24 now. I'll be 25 in November. Never really done anything outside of this career and really don't want to.
You're just a baby.
I don't blame you, though. All right, man. Let's get back to it, okay? Let's get back to where it all started. Growing up in rural North Carolina, what first drew you into public safety, and how did that early environment shape the person you've become?
So, growing up, my mom was a nurse. My dad and my mom weren't together, but I would see him a lot, especially when he was working.
Mm-hmm.
And growing up, it's just something that stuck with me. You know, I loved the flashy lights. I loved the sirens as a kid. And then most kids like dinosaurs and tractors and, race cars. I was infatuated with ambulances, police cars, and fire trucks. That was my whole niche as a kid. Seeing my dad at work and my mom at work and things like that, it really drew me into it. When I was in high school, as soon as I figured out I could get on the fire department, that was it. That was a done deal. And from there, I just kind of really wanted to follow in his footsteps. It's not a great life, but it's a honest life and a life worth living. It definitely doesn't pay well, but it's more rewarding than anything else. And that's kind of what drew me into it. Growing up in the small town that I did, we had one ambulance in our town that was staffed, and then the rest of it fell back on the volunteers or the neighboring department.
So you got involved in EMS and fire at an age when most teenagers are still figuring themselves out. What was it like balancing high school with responding to real emergency calls? And not just any calls, but ones involving your own community?
So that was the thing. Most kids in high school, they get a weekend away from school or just the regular weekend. They're at home, they're hanging out with their friends, doing stuff like that. I was picking up shifts and riding, working. It was a weird balance because I'd run calls in town and I would deal with people that I went to school with or people I knew or their family. I've even ran calls that involved my family. Going out to eat, we'd stop and get a bite to eat, or I'll go sit down the fire engine and ambulance. We'd all go sit down and have a meal. And, people would see me and my teachers would see me and they're like, "What are you doing?"
Such a young kid taking care of people. It's a noble thing, man. I didn't get into public safety until my 30s. So that was the crazy thing. And then I met my wife here, and she was an EMT when she turned 15. So it's crazy. And when we were talking to another guest, Healy from down on Night Watch down in New Orleans, she was amazed that Britt got her EMT and was on the fire truck at that young age, because I guess they didn't have it down there.
It is hard at that age because, like you said, running in your community. I would go on calls on the weekend with QRS, the quick response service with my fire department, and see kids that I had class with. And 2 days later, I'd be sitting in a math class with them, acting like nothing ever happened. But it is weird at such a young age. Pretty cool, but it's definitely a hard thing.
So like at that age, we all thought it was cool. We wanted people to see us out in public with the fire department. We wanted to wear the T-shirt and things like that. And as I got older, when I started taking my EMT class in high school, I was the only person in the class that had actually ever ridden on a truck and was still actively doing it. So they kind of made me the class leader. And it was funny. I would be picking up a regular shift as a cadet, and they would be coming in to do ride time. But see, our service, so it wasn't like a Boy Scouts of America organization. This was a independent in-house operation because the EMS or the emergency services department was incorporated. It wasn't ran through the town. So we had a lot of leeway as things that we could do and not have to follow guidelines set up by, Boy Scouts of America or other programs national.
Was it hard only having one staffed ambulance and the rest volunteers? Like, did you
Well,
guys cover?
When that happened, our neighboring department they staffed our paramedic. And then when I turned 16, I left that department and joined that department, which was 2 full-time ambulances and a full-time fire crew. In a city of about 10,000 people, we run about 8,000 calls a year. But yeah, I mean, in Irwin, the fire department where Dunn sent a paramedic and they used the Irwin EMT, if a second call came out, volunteers could run it as a BLS unit, and then they would dispatch a QRV or a quick response vehicle from Dunn or even a Dunn ambulance to respond to the call as well, because their neighboring districts are so close together. I can leave from Irwin Fire Department and be at Dunn Emergency Services in less than 10 minutes.
So that's how it is here. All the volunteer fire departments, there's so many just in our borough. I think there's 7 within,
I have a lot.
we have a lot, and they all overlap. So there's always, mutual aid and everything right into those service areas.
Yeah, we're lucky. We're lucky how many we have.
Yeah. So Hunter, you've worked in everything from small town departments to the busiest EMS system in the state. How did the pace, pressure, and type of calls change, and how did those changes affect you over time?
So in North Carolina, Mecklenburg County, Charlotte is the busiest. Then you have Wake County, Raleigh, which is the second. And then Cape Fear Valley EMS in Fayetteville, which is the third busiest. I started out at Cape Fear Valley in I was 20. Before then, I was working at a small service. And after that, and going to work from a county agency to a hospital-based agency was a completely different ballgame. The rules were different, policies were different. There was a lot more things you had to do, and the call volume increased drastically from running 30,000 calls a year to 120,000 calls a year.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of working 24-hour shifts, we were working 12-hour shifts. And the calls, Fayetteville's a pretty rough place. A lot of people in North Carolina tell you if you work 1 year in Fayetteville, that's 3 years experience most anywhere else. There's a lot of trauma, a lot of bad respiratory, cardiac, pretty much that's one of the melting pot places. And being exposed to those types of calls in my small little service, yeah, we might run a bad call or a bad wreck. We might have a shooting 2 or 3 times a year. But in Fayetteville, it was every shift, go, go, go. Run them hard, run them fast, get it done.
Turn and burn.
The
Turn and
pace,
burn.
yeah, it was a good system. It still is. The pace of it, though, kind of started to take a toll on me. Working nights, I would come in and I'd sleep all day. My girlfriend at the time, which is my ex-wife now, it caused a lot of strain on us because she wasn't involved in healthcare and emergency services. Well, she worked in a assisted living facility, but not in the same capacity. Didn't really understand it. We were both fairly young. It started wearing down on me, I'd run a bad call. All right, there's calls pending, get back in service. You can talk to your partner about it. And that's really about it, because you can't open up and want to talk to your significant other about it because you get shut down sometimes. It took a toll. And now, from there, moving up, it's nice to have the change of pace and the different shift options here. I actually stepped away from the high call volume systems for a while and went back to the county that I was from, as Sampson County, and worked there for about 2 years, just kind of refresh and reset, and love it.
Good. And like you said, the toll on, your past relationship, we've been so lucky with that, just because she knows, when I came home from the station, she knew what I got into. So we always had that common ground, and she knew if I needed my space to, give me an hour to decompress, and then we can talk about it. So we've always been very lucky, and I've been, these past 13 years of marriage has been fantastic because of it.
Oh yeah. My girlfriend now, she fortunately does work in emergency medicine. She works in an emergency room here in Charlotte. She doesn't fully grasp it because she doesn't work on the truck, but she gets the time of, hey, you had a bad call. And she's also seen firsthand that sometimes I had a bad shift means I almost didn't make it home. And so
That's
she's
hard.
very relaxed on the, back and forth of it. If I need time, my coping mechanisms, things like that, she fully supports it.
Yeah, good. Well, can you walk us through one or two of your most impactful or traumatic calls that you've been a part of, the kind that stays with you, and what the aftermath of those experiences looked like for you personally?
The one call that really rings to mind was actually when I was at Sampson County, small little agency, 6, 7 trucks, 24 hours a shift. If you run 2 or 3 calls in a shift, you've had a busy day.
Jeez.
We were actually, it didn't happen in our district. We were out of district going to get a new tire on our truck. It was just time for the rotation and things like that. And we're sitting there waiting in line, and we hear this really bad wreck come out. We're the closest unit. Came in as a rolling domestic, speeds excess of 70, 80 miles an hour, head on with a dump truck. And I look at my partner. He's like, we got to get this tire. We got to get this tire, whatever. I said, Paul, it's going to take the city truck 10 minutes to get from base to where they're going. We're less than 3 minutes down the road from it. So we say, screw it, check in service and check in route. And as we're pulling up, the police department, the sheriff's office, they're all flying up behind us. We get out, and the dump truck is like laid over in a drainage ditch on top of the car. And there's people screaming, there's a car seat, there's a car seat, there's a car seat. We can't even see the front end of the vehicle. We can't see the driver or the passenger. All we can see is there's a car seat in the back window, and we all just started grabbing, waiting on the fire department to get there. Just started grabbing and peeling stuff, trying to pry apart just to see. And finally, everybody starts showing up because it happened that quick that we were just right down the road. And we didn't have a whole lot of equipment with us on the ambulance side from, our medical equipment. We didn't have any extrication tools or things like that. And we finally get the hood peeled back of the dump truck far enough to see into the passenger side of the vehicle, and the passenger was obviously deceased. We kept working. There was a guy who's a volunteer firefighter in a neighboring district. He owns a towing company, and he just so happened to be coming up on it with his big rig tow truck about the time that it happened. And he just started, without ever saying a word, just started hooking things up to get the car or get the dump truck off. And both of the people in the dump truck were fine. I mean, they were obviously shaken up. They knew what had just happened. And it took about 2.5, 3 hours to get the car out to where we could even see the driver. And thankfully, there was no child in the car, thankfully. And that was one of them calls, I looked at my partner afterwards, we're in this drainage ditch covered in mud up to our pants, diesel fumes all over us from the gas we were walking through and coming out of the truck. And we just get in the truck and look at each other, say, you good? Yeah, you good? Yeah, but holy shit, that was something.
Yeah.
Went and got our tire put on, went back and didn't run a single call the rest of the shift.
Yeah. Goes from nothing to
That
the
one,
highest acuity of calls, That's the ups and downs of it.
that one
So-
kind of sat with me. Just seeing the sheer force. I mean, obviously, and I don't mean to brag about this, I've seen people, all kinds of mangled and messed up, but that one, just the way that it happened, it's not even the fact that they died, it's how they died. That kind of got me.
So
Wasn't a
after a
fun
tough
time.
call like that, after a tough call like that, especially, everything you dealt with, what would the hours or days after look like? Did you feel supported? Did you know what to do with everything you were feeling?
My agency at the time, we checked in on each other. If we had a super bad call, like a pediatric death, I mean, our shift would kind of get together and talk about it. But I had one partner, and initially she did not want anything to do with me, did not want to be around me, did not care for me at all. And now we're best friends. I mean, me moving's the only thing that separated us from hanging out all the time and still working and running calls. But we would get together at the house and hang out, cook out, drink, things like that. I got into playing billiards, playing pool a lot as my off days. I would come home and just sit in an empty house, essentially, because this was around the same time of my divorce and separation. Go to the pool hall and spend 14, 16 hours a day just playing pool. It helped me clear my mind. And now I play on a league, and it's just been, one of them things when I have a bad call, I go play pool.
Yeah. That's a good healthy outlet though.
I think I'm
Yeah.
always the winner when we play pool.
She's so competitive, man. Like anything we do, she turns it into a competition and she tries to win everything from
You
it.
got to. You got to keep that spark alive.
Oh yeah, she keeps me on my toes.
Got to. So what were some of the first signs that the job was starting to take a toll on your mental health, even if you didn't realize at the time?
Started secluding myself from people. I kind of started with I'm fine, nothing's bothering me, nothing's gonna bother me, things like that. And then me and my ex-wife at the time, she'd say something and it would just spark an argument, the easily irritability, things like that. And then it started, affecting my sleep. I was waking up 3 and 4 times at night, and I'd be sitting on the couch playing a video game or watching a movie and just start having these intrusive thoughts that just randomly pop in my head. Hey, you ran a call here, or we'd be riding down the road and I'd drive past somewhere where 3 days ago, we just ran a fatal wreck or we just had somebody get shot there. And it started taking its toll. I was like, all right, it's starting to bother me a little bit. Started talking to my coworkers and things. And that's when I was really trying to figure out my career path as to what I wanted to do inside of the job. And I started drinking. It turned into a heavy affair, and it just kind of took that dark, deep dive. You get off shift, you go home, you drink till you pass out, and you finally sleep good. And it just became a revolving door of unhealthy coping mechanisms and bad habits.
We've heard so much, from the people we've talked to that run calls in their area of not being able to drive down certain roads and taking the long way to avoid a certain area. And just, it's sad. That's hard.
It is. And it's, friends that we've had come on the show and things that we didn't even know, just like you said, the drinking, my buddy Halo, he said, he would leave a shift with me after 24 hours and driving up the interstate, pounding a bottle of something. I had no clue. I had no clue that was going on. And, it's tough when you hear like a show like this, you hear some of your close friends that
The family.
and you didn't know these things that they've been dealing with. And that's, I really think that's why we've done this, so we can have our friends reach out and share their stories so they can help get it off their chest and get the resources that they need to get better. So Hunter, you said the job did change you. It even cost you your marriage. What did that shift look like, both internally and in your relationships?
One day, the arguing was just too much after a shift, and I said, I'm done. I'm leaving. I packed what I could in trash bags. I left her the house, left everything in the house for her. One of my coworkers at the time knew somebody renting a trailer. I moved into a single wide trailer, and my coworkers brought me a bed and a bed frame, a mattress and a bed frame, and I started from there. At first, I wanted to be alone. I just wanted to be left alone by everybody, go to work, do my work, run a bad call, pick up another shift, just full head dive into it. And I slowly started to realize that wasn't the case because I was down dark and deep. I wanted to talk about things, but didn't have anybody to talk to about them. I mean, it's not something you want to go to your family and say, hey, I had a really bad call and these are the things I've been doing to cope with it.
Yeah.
And so the loneliness in a way was comforting because I got what I wanted, left alone, silent. But then it started to, the silence was deafening. I started, going out, doing more things, becoming more sociable again because there was one point I looked at myself and, I said, if I don't do something, if I keep living like this, I'm going to die. This lifestyle is going to kill me if I continue to embrace it.
Yeah.
So I moved through the process of what I needed to do and luckily came out on the other side of it with the support of my old partner that I told you about. My best friend, she'd call me randomly. Hey, what you doing? Just call to talk. Go to the house, hang out with her and her husband and the kids. If she knew I was having a bad day. Hey, come on, let's go to Goldsboro and pick up a case of wine. Just things like that. And that right there really helped me forge my bond with, some of my coworkers. He's not my brother, but he might as well be. He's one of my old partners and coworkers. He's now a sheriff's deputy. When I got my first full-time job at my small agency, he was there and we left about the same time. And ever since then, that has been my family. I can call him on a moment's notice and say, hey, I need you. And he's driving 3 hours across the state and vice versa. And he's the person that I do talk to that knows everything.
Big thing with that, like we've discussed with other guests, is the peer support. You know, that peer support is such a huge factor when it comes to our mental health as first responders. But as you see, your peer support turns into your family support, you know? So, and that's, I think that's what's the big take home is that you form these bonds with the people that you work with or that are doing the same type of job as us. And you see that that support is there. And it's just the tough part is reaching out and asking for that help or asking for that conversation just to have with someone.
Absolutely.
So after everything you've seen and experienced, how have you learned to cope and begin healing, even if it's still a work in progress?
But it's definitely still a work in progress. And that's one of them things, honestly, I don't think it'll ever be completed. As long as I continue to do this job or within the realm of public safety, like I said, I got away from the drinking as much and started playing pool. I can't play pool buzzed or drunk. So I got really into it and I started realizing calls are going to happen. And it was a quote actually that really changed my perspective. It said, you're going to be there when a lot of people are born and when a lot of people die. And almost every culture, religion, or way of life, those two things are made sacred by a divine intervention. And personally, you have a front row invitation. That's an honor.
But an absolute honor. I know exactly what quote you're talking about. I look at that picture and that quote every like about once a year. I know exactly what you're talking about, man.
That right there did a lot of changing in me just reading it, got me to thinking, it is what it is in a sense. But if I truly love this job and love what I do and try to be the best at it, you're going to have to be there for those moments. And you're going to be the one that people are looking to be a light, to be a beacon of hope. And so when you finally have the courage to put that backpack on, I felt like in a sense it really boosted my self morals. It boosted me internally as to, all right, yeah, we're going to run this bad call, but we're not going to go back down the same path that we did before. We're going to keep moving because if not me, then who? Somebody else needs me. And with that comes my own little coping mechanisms, my own little routine that I have after work, things like that. You just got to keep doing it and keep living.
Man, what an absolute honor that is, isn't it? It is. It's an honor to be there when people are in their time of need, when people take their last breath, people coming into the world. It is. It's an absolute honor. I know exactly what quote you're talking about, man. And I see that and it chokes me up when I read it. Every time I read it, it is. It's the absolute truth. If you're in this line of work, specifically EMS, when you're in EMS and you're taking care of the patients, that's how you need to approach it because it's an absolute honor to be taking care of people at the worst time.
Well, see, and I have a little bit of a different take on that as well. And this is a part of my healing and coping mechanisms. So, our motto is so others may live, these things I'll sacrifice. At the end of the day, I want to go home, but I'm going to do whatever it takes to make sure that my patient is okay. And if that means that something happens to me instead, I'm more than okay with it. And, I've told my family that, and, some people call it selfish. Some people call me crazy for it. At the end of the day, if that is what happens, there's no higher honor than that. And that helps with my healing and coping because I know what I'm doing is going to maintain that level of composure and moral boost and just ride with it.
So, Hunter, tell us about Scooter. Scooter's your therapy dog, and what inspired you to bring him into the EMS world? And how have your coworkers, even you, benefited from having that kind of support?
We got Scooter. He is 7 months old.
Let's go.
Today, actually. He just turned 7 months old today.
Happy birthday, Scooter.
He's over in his age right now, because if not, he'd be all right here. But my girlfriend really wanted a dog, and I was like, well, I don't really see the justification of a dog right now, But we got him. And I was like, you know what? Charlotte Fire has several therapy dogs. They even have living dogs at the station or at some of their stations. And Charlotte Police Department, they also have several therapy dogs. And I saw a need when I got to Medic. I was like, well, we have a fantastic peer support group. this is the place where if you do have a bad call or you are struggling, they're going to come to you. They're going to check on you. They're going to make sure you're good, and they're going to give you all the resources that you need to get yourself better. And that's one thing I love about working in Charlotte at Medic. The amount of peer support is great, but we borrowed Charlotte's dogs and CMPD's dogs and things like that. And it's funny, we had recently in the last few years, we had 4 police officers get killed in an ambush. We had 2 U.S. Marshals and 2 CMPD guys, and then several others that were shot along the way, but 4 of them ended up passing away. And that was right before I started at Medic. I had just moved out here that same week. And I hear the accounts of the therapy dogs coming in from Charlotte and things like that from the fire department and police department, how good it did. So I started trying to figure out what loopholes I needed to do. I was like, all right, I've got the dog. He's hypoallergenic. He's a Bernie doodle, which any doodle is great for ADHD dogs, therapy dogs, emotional support, things like that. And so I went to management and the upper leadership and directors, and I was like, hey, I want to do this. And so I've started doing personal training with them at home, classes like that through private organizations for basic obedience, things like that. And what I found in the research is most places won't start therapy dog training until they're at least a year old. So Medic gave me the go-ahead to do the classes and, reimburse me and things like that. And then we can use him whenever's needed. When EMS week came around this past year, we had a big cookout and they told me bring Scooter. Had an absolute blast. Everybody loved it. And that same day is when they said, yes, we can use him as a therapy dog. We just got to get the paperwork and the procedures done since we don't have any and haven't really had any before this. And so it's a great thing to want to be a part of that initiative and having other people come and say, hey, what do I need to do to see about getting a therapy dog for the agency and things like that. Kind of sparked its own little trail. And took him through CMed, which is our Central Medical Emergency Dispatch. They loved on him, things like that. He got to go take pictures in the ambulance, It was a big morale booster because we had crews that were coming in to get food that were on a call or on shift, and they're like, oh my God, there's a dog. And so that really solidified it for me that that's the hill I want to climb. I want to do it. I don't care how much it's going to cost. In the end, he's helped me too. When I have a bad day or my mind just starts getting to me, he knows. I'll be sitting on the couch and he'll just run up. He won't even jump on the couch. He'll just run up, and I sit on the sectional of the couch. He'll just run up and lay his head in my lap. I had an incident a couple weeks ago where caused some tears and things like that. And he just walked up to me, jumped up, put his paws on me, and pushed me to sit down, sat down on the floor, and he just came and crawled right in my lap. Didn't try to lick me all over and be too much. Just kind of laid there. And I was like, that really helped me. And I feel like that's going to help a lot of people in the future as well for years to come.
Heck yeah.
So for someone listening who doesn't understand why something like a therapy dog or peer support can make such a difference, how would you explain it?
So you have a pediatric cardiac arrest or a really bad call where they have to do a debriefing, they bring in the therapist and the counselors and things like that. And in the time after that call, there's a lot of things that are happening that are going to happen. They have to happen. You're just constantly reliving that call over and over again. But if you walk into a room and it's just me standing in there with a puppy, most of the time, even if you're in a really crappy mood, you're going to go, oh, it's a puppy and he wants to play, or it's a dog and he wants to play. And for that 20 or 30 minutes that you just run him and get his energy out or just sit with him, takes your mind off of it. You forget about it because you're so focused on the dog. And at the end of the session, it's one of them things, it helped you forget about it for a little bit. It helped you reset. And now you can move forward with the grieving process, the coping process, things like that. And that's really why I want the therapy dog in peer support, because I've seen firsthand what a difference it makes.
So public safety runs deep in your family, 3 generations. What does that legacy mean to you today, and how do you carry it with you on every shift?
There's not a single place in the state of North Carolina that I've worked where somebody doesn't know my father's. My dad was a paramedic back when OEMS was just first getting around to things in North Carolina. I think he started his career in the early mid 70s. He's retired now. He retired in 2010. But when he spent most of his career at Fayetteville at Cape Fear Valley, most of his 33-year career. So after that, going to work there, which is where he was, I remember going through the hiring process, the skills fair that day. You go in, do your physical, do your interview, things like that. And the assistant chief there at the time did my physical, my med pat, went upstairs and did my scenarios. And I'm walking back downstairs to go sit in the room to be called for my interview. And he just reaches out and taps me and says, "Come here, give me your sheet." I was like, "Okay." He's like, "What size shirts do you need?" I said, "I haven't even finished." He said, "I know your daddy. If you're anything like him, you're going to cause a lot more gray hairs, but you're going to do just fine." My dad was a very aggressive paramedic in his protocols and what he was able to do. They used to call him the mad tuber because he could intubate anything, anywhere, any shape, way, form, or contortion. I mean, he was great at it. And I've been through medic class, didn't finish it out due to some personal issues, but knowing that was some big shoes to fill. And hearing the stories and working with people that worked with my dad, it was a full circle moment. I ran a call with one of my dad's old partners at the time. He's now a lieutenant, or he was a lieutenant when I was there. He got put on the truck that night, and we got done after a call. He looks at me and he says, "You talk and act just like Wayne." He said, "It's uncanny." And it's funny, so my dad used to have a big bushy mustache, and when I grow just the mustache out, there's like no denying that I'm his child. But carrying that legacy with me, I'm not really good at a lot of life skills. And it's something me and him talked about a while back, actually. I can't do a lot of common things, multiplications, things like that, but I can do med math. Like, it's nothing. I can do my job upside down in the dark with one hand tied behind my back, and it's like he said, it's in our blood. There's nothing else that we know how to do better. And I know I'm a lot of things to a lot of people, but nobody can ever say that I'm a bad provider, I'm a bad EMT, or a bad partner. And that's the one thing I've strived on. And I feel like that carries that legacy of when I get to the point of retirement, if my kids ever get into public safety, people will hear stories about me and say, "Yep, that's my dad."
Yeah. What a great legacy to give, man. That's fantastic.
So, in a field that demands so much of us, how do you still find meaning in what you do, even with the weight you had to carry? Did you like that there?
The weight you have to carry.
Clever. Like I said earlier, that quote that I was talking to Bart about is, you wake up every day, and if you're a person like me, you don't have another option. It's the only thing you want to do. It's the only thing you find joy in. And even in all the chaos and all the bad crap that I've seen and been through, I still love it. In a way, yeah, that's kind of toxic, but I still love it. The job doesn't love me, but it's one of them things where if you don't have a purpose in life and you get into this job, it'll give you a purpose. The first time that you saved somebody's life, and I'm not even talking about a cardiac arrest, your simple anaphylaxis call, seeing the difference that you made from, all right, this person wasn't talking and was circling the drain when we got there, to now they're sitting up and talking in full sentences. They've got their color back, that gives you a sense of purpose. And those are the things that I look forward to when I go to work. I know I'm going to run a lot of BS calls. I mean, that's just the world we live in today. But those 3 or 4% calls, I always say 90% of calls you run are BS. 4 or 5 are really high acuity calls where you're meant to be there. Then the other 2 to 3% is just in between cancellations, things like that. But in that small percentage, and it's not going to happen every shift, but when it does, you kind of ride that high for a little while. And that, to me, adds to the meaning of why I still do it. If I wake up every day and I hate my job, I don't want to go to work, it's time to get out and time to do something different. The weight we carry is staggering, but EMS isn't something you get into for shits and giggles. It's a responsibility you're going to have to bear. And that's the way that I see it.
I think it's a good perspective. We need more providers like yourself, because there's providers out there that
I wouldn't go that far.
no, it's the truth though. I mean, there's providers out there that should not be doing what they're doing, and
Absolutely.
We need more people that want to carry that weight, want to do better, and want to see good outcomes for their patients. Because we are indeed patient advocates. That's what we're there to do. So, for someone new to the job or thinking about walking away, what would you want them to know about surviving the hard parts, and why is it worth pushing through?
So, for someone new getting into the job, I have a big issue with what we call trauma trophying.
Mm.
You have a new 18-year-old EMT who their very first call ever is a DOA that's been there for a while. Obviously that's going to spark a bad example right out the gate. I mean, it happens. Speaking from experience with a friend of mine, actually, and people want to, when you get back to the station, you try to talk about it in, the meeting room or the living room, computer room, whatever. And the seasoned 20-year provider that should have been gone 10 years ago that's sitting there drinking a Diet Mountain Dew and wanting to smoke cigarettes says, well, that's nothing compared to this call or this and that I've seen. You don't do that because it sets a bad precedent. And if somebody does, you don't have to tolerate it. We're both here doing the same job. Just because you have 20 years of experience and that doesn't bother you, it might bother me. For somebody thinking about walking away, if you're absolutely tired and fed up, you just feel like you can't do it anymore, remember why you got into it in the first place. Think back to when you were lean and green and fresh out of school. How excited you were. What made you excited? Think about it. What made you excited to do the job? What made you even want to do it in the first place? How did you feel after running your first call where you actually got to see a difference you made? How did you feel after that? Is it really worth hanging up and walking away from it? I mean, the job's going to come with hard parts. We all have our fair share about it. I don't care how big and bad you are. At some point, something's going to get to you. Something's going to bother you. I mean, that's just the way that our bodies work and our minds and the world. When I started having to realize that nobody's coming to help me, and I don't mean that in the sense that it sounds, obviously I had help. I still have help, but I have to help myself first before anyone else can help me. For me, it was religion. I prayed on it. I prayed to God. I put it in his hands. I understood, I was meant to be there at that time, yeah. But the hard part is, like I said earlier, just because it bothers you, it might not bother me right then and there. So that hard part, you were there because in the weight of the world and how the universe works, in my opinion, you were able to handle that hard part when somebody else probably couldn't. And that's why it's worth pushing through, because eventually somebody's going to come to you and say something and you're going to be able to tell them how you got through it. We need to do more of that in this job. Mental health is still very taboo.
We've seen improvements, and that's what we're continuing to do, is get people those resources, making it an open dialogue for people to be able to come on and share those stories and to share their concerns and to kill that stigma, the culture of the old school suck it up buttercup, as we always say. So that's what it is. We need to, that old way of thinking needs to be flushed, and we need to get it out of there.
Absolutely. It's toxic.
It
It's
is,
what
absolutely.
has ruined this job for most people and even the public, what
Yep.
they think of us.
Yeah. So, Hunter, are there any resources, habits, or support systems that you would recommend to someone else struggling with the weight of this work?
Rely or lay it on your partners, lay it on the people that went through it with you. I mean, that's what started with me, and now I have family. There's EAP most places, hopefully, employee assistance. There's therapists that specialize just in first responder mental health. You know, there's a big whole like stigma or stereotype of EMTs and paramedics and divorce and the habits and things like, the movie Bringing Out the Dead, the newest one, Asphalt City.
Yeah.
Great movie. That was a great movie. It really shows the stages of how your body and mind work over a time of constant trauma. But the resources are there. You just have to be the one to seek them out. Go talk to your therapist if you have one. I mean, at this point, I feel like most of the people I know go to a therapist. And if not, I got a number for a really good one if you need it. But,
We be banging.
start talking about it. Start opening up, being open about it. And I feel like the more that people do, the more that resources will become available, because management's going to sit there and go, well, we can't sweep it under the rug like we used to. We've got too many people talking about it and trying to do something about it.
Yep.
And I feel like it'll push the resources. I mean, in my system, we have peer support. We have a great system in place. But in other systems that I've worked, you don't have it. You talk to your coworker.
Yep.
But I feel like the biggest thing to somebody struggling is talk about it, let it out. It doesn't make you weak. If anything, holding it in makes you weak.
Sure does.
And
I
I know
know.
that sounds pretty blunt, but
It's the truth. It's the absolute truth. You know, it took me so long to reach out, you know, for the help that I needed. Once I finally did, you feel that weight fall off your shoulders and you see a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel, and then you get a better version of yourself, or you get yourself
the
back.
way I see it is if you hold it in, that's you letting it have a weight over you and a hold on you. Versus
Sure.
if I'm freely to talk about it, yeah, it's going to be hard at first, but once you do it enough, it's a chain that's broken. You have literally just dropped your shackles and are free to speak about it without it bothering you.
Yep. So if you could go back to a teenage version of yourself, just getting into public safety, not that you already grew up in the whole thing, so you were born into it, what would you want to say to that younger version of yourself?
Shut the hell up. Shut up and listen. Suck it all
Yeah.
in. Quit trying to act like you know what you're doing. You know, getting into it as a teenager, you know, I thought I knew how to do it. I thought I knew everything about it. Step back, shut up, and ride. That's really about it.
Shut up and let's ride, baby. Let's go.
Do it. You've worked in both rural and urban EMS systems. What have you noticed about how mental health is talked about or not talked about in different settings? Did one environment support you better than the other?
Well, absolutely. Like I just said previously, you know, this system we have it, this system we don't, this one we kind of have it, you know, and a lot of it has to do with funding. It does. But a lot of it also has to do with you've got a director that's been there for 30 years. And when he got into it, nobody said a word about anything. It's time to go out with the old and bring in something new. And I feel like with that, you would be able to push for more funding for it in your more rural systems. You know, having the peer support team that I have here in Charlotte, when I tell you it is the best of the best, the guys and girls that are on that team 24/7. You know, I've had some recent issues in my personal life go on, and I've had supervisors call me. I had a supervisor come to my house just to sit with me and check on me. You don't get that in some places. Some places you kind of just get told to suck it up. Like he said, suck it up, buttercup. So I definitely feel like there's still a lot of room for improvement all the way around the board, you know, no matter where you're at. But people work with what they got. I've
What was the
noticed
turning
that.
point where... I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. You can go on with the next question.
No, sorry.
No, you-
What was the turning point where you realized you couldn't just tough it out anymore? That you needed to start taking care of your mental health in a real way?
I had went on a pretty heavy bender. My phone had died. I was completely knocked out. And I had people, they knew that I had had a rough day or a rough shift the day before that. And I left my buddy's house that night after talking with him about it and just, you know, how bad it was really bothering me. And these calls and these things were really starting to get to me. And, you know, I told him I was fine. I was going to be all right. Went home and killed a fifth of whiskey and passed out in the living room in the chair. And I woke up to him calling me. If I hadn't have called him back, he was about 2 minutes away from my house. He was on his way over there to kick in the front door. And after that, it was kind of like my wake up call of, hey, get your shit together. You know, if I keep living this way, it's going to kill me. I've got to do something about it before it completely consumes me because it's already taken everything else from me. But on that same token, I let it take everything from me because at the time I didn't stand up for myself and say, yeah, I'm struggling.
You did now. You figured it out.
The Lord.
Yep.
I was a mess. You know, suicide had crossed my mind several times. It's one of them places I don't ever want to go back to because in that darkest moment, somebody was there for me. I tell people all the time, even new hires that I don't know, if I have a new hire on the truck with me, if you have a bad call and you need somebody to talk to, here's my phone number. I don't care if it's day or night, call me. And I've got a friend that's like that with me that's up here in Charlotte now. We became really good friends, you know. I'll wake up in the middle of the night and just start thinking, you know, I can't go back to sleep. I'll give him a ring 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. He's up. What's up, man? What you doing? What's on your mind? Just talking everyday normal Pat and Charlie, which I think is a great resource of, you know, when I did think, well, I got to tough it out. I don't have anything like that. Finding or being that person helps drastically.
That's what I always say about, and it can convey over to the peers, but, growing up without a dad around and us having our son, I turned into the father that I needed, for my son. So those people that are around you and then you want to pass that along, you give them the help that you needed. I think it's such an important thing, especially in the peer support. So Hunter, you've seen firsthand how trauma can change someone. What's something you wish your coworkers, supervisors, or even the public understood better about mental health of first responders?
It's okay to not be okay. We're humans at the end of the day too.
Yep.
If I feel comfortable enough to talk to you about it or open up to you about it, let me talk. Because I've struggled with it for so long, and you might have heard the story before, I might have told you before, but the effects of PTSD cause memory loss issues. They cause so many other issues as well. But if I feel vulnerable enough to open up to you about it and talk to you about it, don't take that very lightly.
Yeah.
I wish everybody knew that. We
Coming on
live in
and
our own little 3-foot world in our glass house, and sometimes things get very fragile.
that's the thing, coming on and being so open and vulnerable and letting people see that's part of healing. It really is. And like you said, if I'm doing that and giving you that part of myself, it must be very important to you.
It's funny. I was talking to my old partner the other day, best friend. Her name's Grace, but we got to texting and talking about, I'm going to be on this podcast. She's like, you will never get me on a podcast. And we got talking, about what you guys were about and what you were doing. And we kind of got reminiscing with each other about what triggers us and what bothers us, the things that do stick with us. And I stopped mid text and I said, you see this conversation we're having? If me and you were still at work together and in the living room with other crews and other people having this conversation, we get laughed at or told to shut up or things like that. That's the whole point of this podcast, is to break that stigma. And she said, you know what? You're actually absolutely right about it.
It's the truth. That's why we did it. When Britt and I popped on for did you watch our very first episode?
It was rough.
Very
Hard
rough and raw, but
Well, that goes fitting with just like this job, very rough and raw.
rough and raw.
I feel like that should be the new motto of EMS.
Ridden hard and put away wet. That's how it goes.
Well, Scooter just did it, so he agreed.
I got a rise out of him. But that's the truth, man. It really is. When we decided to do a podcast, it was just out of nowhere. We were sitting in bed one night and I told her, sitting there, I was talking to Britt and I was like, I want to start a podcast. She looked at me kind of cross-eyed. She's like, come on, this is going to cost us how much money? And we said, we start this and we reach out, and if we can help just one person, it's worth all the time and effort that we put into it.
Absolutely.
When we actually did the very first episode, it was tough because we both said, if we're not open and vulnerable and giving people 100% the truth and being totally transparent, no one else is going to come on and do it. So
absolutely.
we did. And it was tough, but look where we're at now. We have people in North Carolina coming on a tiny podcast that we would have never thought we would, had people on. So it's been an amazing ride for us. And I'm hoping that, it's reaching people, and it's hopefully it's helping people and giving someone a little bit of hope, and they can think to themselves, wow, it is okay to have these issues and to actually open up and talk about them.
Absolutely. And after hearing that, there's a statement I would like to make if I can.
Sure.
I know I haven't been in this job as long as many people, and there's things that I haven't seen or done and things that I have. At the end of the day, if you are struggling, there's always somebody there. There's going to be something there that changes it. From somebody who's contemplated killing themselves or driven down the hole of drinking and, all the bad habits that are associated with it. I'm not going to go into specifics, but there's people that I'm hopeful will see this video that only remember me as the teenager in my job, the smart mouth asshole. And I hope they see this and see that that's not the person I am anymore, and that this job has taken a toll. And even though it's taken a toll on me, I still love it, and it's the best career I've ever had. It's the only one worth getting up every day and putting on that badge and going to work. You go to work and find peace in the chaos. You are the peace in the violence. We leave our families behind every day, knowing that we might not come home. That's not an easy burden, and eventually it does weigh in, but don't let it get to you.
Yeah, man. So, Hunter, is there anything else you want to leave our listeners with?
Couldn't say. I think we covered a lot of things that when I first read them, the questions when you emailed me, I was like, some of these are kind of deep. And I got thinking about it. I was like, you know what? Screw it.
We appreciate you coming on and being open about it, man. It is. It's not an easy thing for people to do. For you to reach out to us. Where did you initially see the podcast or hear and see what was going on with us? TikTok. Wow,
So
TikTok can
funny,
be a wonderful thing or a horrible thing all at once.
I used to follow a different public safety podcast that was along the same lines, and they kind of shut things down. So when I saw you guys pop up, I was like, hell yeah.
We appreciate
But I think
it, man.
what you're doing is great. It is beyond amazing and awesome.
Thank you.
And I appreciate you guys letting me come on here and blab for an hour.
We're the ones that are honored, man. We couldn't be more honored to have people reach out to us to, like I said, be transparent and come on and be vulnerable and let people know their story, to really, share with other people that it's okay. It's okay to not be okay, but it's not okay to not do anything about it. That's what Britt said a few episodes ago. And I'm like, well, that makes sense. We're going to use that all the time because it makes sense. And so, yeah, man. We appreciate you coming on, brother. If it ain't broke,
don't fix it. But with EMS, everything's broken and a lot of it needs fixing.
Oh, yeah. It's funny. We tend to have, it's obviously open to all public safety, but we tend to have more EMS people on. It's tough for police officers to come on because I know, and we've even discussed it with the police officers that have, if you reach out and admit that there's something wrong or you're having issues,
no one wants to work with you. Job.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what in the world are we doing? What are we doing? The upper management needs to understand, and there's such a disconnect with upper management, and especially in law enforcement part of things. They have to understand that they're the most prevalent to have the PTSD or have the issues. So that's what we're trying to kill is that stigma, man.
I tell people all the time, you can't take care of others if you don't take care of yourself.
Absolutely.
There it is.
Yep.
There it is.
Well, before we get off, is Scooter close by? Can we, listeners,
give me 1 second.
Viewers, we are ready to have a puppy on the podcast. Let's go.
Scooter.
Now say hello. Let me put his harness on him real quick.
Bernie's in a poodle. Bernie's mountain dog and a poodle. Is that correct, Hunter?
Hey, come here. Hello. Let's put your harness on. I know you guys can cut this out and edit it to where he pops up.
No, it's fine.
We're leaving it all.
Yeah, we're leaving it all. We don't care.
You're my baby boy. Come here. See. Good
Scooter.
Boy.
Hey, Scooter.
So this is Scooter.
Scooter's awesome.
He's even got a medic patch on him. And on the other side, he's got one that says so others may live.
Heck yeah.
Scooter.
Come out here. Is there a way I can flip the camera?
Come on, you're the young one. You're the one that knows technology, not us.
Come on, Scooter.
Come here. He's just got out, so.
Oh.
But yeah, he's a big boy. Yeah. Oh. Say hi to everyone. Yeah.
7 months old, right?
I'm gonna pet Scooter.
7 months old.
Happy birthday, Scooter.
See?
There he is. That's a good boy.
This is all he does, and he loves it.
That's a good boy.
He's just sitting here chilling. But he's going to make a great therapy dog and a great addition.
Heck yeah. But anyone who wants to be on the Weight We Carry podcast, just like Hunter and Scooter there, hit us up at twwcpodcast@proton.me. Check us out on TikTok. Check us out on YouTube. Subscribe over on YouTube. Please reach out to us. Hunter, thank you so much, brother. We really appreciate you coming on, man.
Thank y'all.
Again, if you could just stick around for a few minutes after we're done here, we'll close it out.
Yep.
Guys, we love you. Thank you. See you, Scooter.
He says bye. I'm getting belly rubs.
Heck yeah. Have a good one, guys.